You're by Q now, so you want to guess. All right, I have 6 o'clock. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thanks, everyone. So we've got some minutes to go over. Sadie's going over right now. You see the email from Monica for the drafts? No. No.
I probably will by tomorrow.
Okay.
It hasn't, I get them, but it hasn't been very,
I had a couple things that I thought were wrong, on the August 20th minutes. You have Sadie called the meeting to order. It was actually, I believe it was me. And then on the top of page 3, which is under the finance report, we had talked about, so the last line, there was also analysis of EMS revenue, expenses and staffing. EMS service revenue is increasing, and adding a staff person would cost $44,730, which would be covered by EMS revenue. I think we talked about converting a part-time position, one of the several part-time positions, to a new full-time position, but there was no cost to it, so. And then under number 10 for the transfer station, the transfer station trailers have been scrapped, and there's now a company that supplies the town with trailers and dumpsters at no charge. That is actually partially true. They supplied trailers for the scrap metal recycling at no charge, not everything.
And they're all dumpsters, there's no.
they roll up box.
Right, yeah. Oh, okay, so they're just boxes on, yeah, rather. Scott,
So,
see anything else?
no, so I'll move that we approve the 3 sets of minutes with the corrections noted.
No, I have changes in number 2, 26 for the 26 too.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll move that we approve and then we'll document it. So
Okay.
now we'll discuss the other ones.
And then in the August 26th meeting, under other business, the bridge rental, quotes have been received regarding options to purchase the bridge, and it would be, you had more expensive than renting it. It's actually less expensive than renting it because it's a 3-year extension, so. And we made the motion to purchase the bridge, the temporary bridge.
Thank you.
Thanks. Are there?
We have a second,
Second,
all in favor?
I,
And I think we're missing non-public minutes for
yeah, I don't see anything.
the 26th. Because we need a non-public after that meeting, so.
I asked about that.
Yeah.
You can make something up.
I thought it was personnel and.
It was the same, it's the same as the non-publics for the 20th, except for actually the time change, so. Yeah,
We'll make those changes and have them for next meeting. Yeah, and we came out of non-public. My notes say 5:56, you're not gonna be right.
it was pretty quick.
So we call it to order at 6.
Yeah, we started at 5 that night.
Okay,
started at
5:56, we came out of non-public, Scott made the motion, I second.
I have to Monica. Take care of that.
Thanks, Robert.
Okay.
I've tried a bunch of them.
What is that, 20?
Yeah, and
That's why.
Yeah.
Thank you. I had copies myself, that's why.
Oh.
I need a secretary. You wanna volunteer? Special town meeting for the water upgrade, just a reminder.
That's just a reminder, the special town meeting vote day is September 24th on Tuesday from 1 to 6 P.M. in this location. And that is for the water system, accepting the SRF loan with 71% forgiveness and the the grant from the EPA for the 1.457 million, which is related to the distribution line part. The SRF loan is related to the lead remediation. And there will be no additional funding required because of some changes that happened just before the meeting. This warrant article was written in June. And we've subsequently had a meeting with the state and the EPA, and they've expanded the amount of coverage, and we're allowed to count the intake project as our match for the EPA project. So therefore, there'll be no additional funding required for the town to get a loan. You are getting an SRF loan for the 780,000, of which 29% is 1.5% or something loan in that process. So it's very, very small amount of the project is there. So and we'll be sending out some additional information in the newsletter, things like that. But the town has gotten an extremely generous process as to how this is going to work. We're going to have a $2.9 million job, and I think you have the 550,000 that was taken out like 3 years ago as an SRF loan, very low interest. And then you'll have an additional 200,000 at a similar interest rate. So for a $3 million worth of work. So I think it's a good value to the town.
Thank you. Any questions on that?
You said it's from 1 to 4?
1 to 6.
1 to 6, okay.
1 to 6, and then we've got primary September 10th at the fire station. We split up the board because we have to be there. I'll be there from 8 to 12. Sadie's gonna be there from 12 to 4, and Scott's gonna be there from 4 to 8, so. Then maybe we can get rid of some of the political signage on the common and make
Yeah.
everybody happy, so. And we've got an update from Canaan Community Power. Yep.
I'm here for a couple of reasons. One is to update you guys on where we're at, in terms of the plan. And also I need to ask your blessing of sorts, for the logo. And so that's why I gave you copies of the pretty pictures, on the, sheet there. So we are, kind of plugging away on the plans. We were kind of, we have been waiting for some data from Liberty Utilities to come back, which we finally got. We had New Hampshire Co-op data a little bit earlier. We finally got the data from Liberty Utilities, and New Hampshire Community Power Coalition is now like looking at it. I mean, honestly, I looked at it, I'm like, I can't make sense of this. So they're making sense of the data so that we'll be able to input it into the plan. Basically, we have to show overall usage data for each utility. So we're still sort of working on that. We're working on the objective section of the plan, which is basically we're trying to prioritize, what's Canaan's best interests. We're looking at obviously lower rates and community resilience were the two that popped up in our committee is the most important things. And we're finishing that section. We hope to have the completed plan posted on the Canaan website by November. We have scheduled the 2 required public hearings in this room in the EOC for Wednesday, December 4th at 7 p.m. and Wednesday, January 15th at 3 p.m. And basically the process is once we have those public hearings and we get the community's input and feedback, then we can make whatever changes to the plan and we will put a warrant on the March ballot, whether the community approves or doesn't approve community power. And then once it's approved, then we are really set to get get it pretty much operational, hopefully by fall 2025, I think.
Yeah.
Which is why I gave you the logos, because this is something that the Community Power Coalition of New Hampshire does for each town. And they're really fun, and actually that's the fun part that we get to work on. And we kind of did a logo, and the first part there is the one that we thought that would work for Canaan. And it's basically, it's a picture of the meeting house. And we're hoping just to get you sort of blessing to say, go ahead with it. I gave you also a sheet of all the other towns that have been.
Are
Which
you
are
gonna
really
have
fun.
Canaan on that, or?
Yes, yeah, right now it's not done, so we would send it to, it would look just like all the other ones. I gave you a sample of Limes because they have their church, I believe, is on there, which it probably looks similar.
Actually, quite a few of them have meeting houses.
They all do,
Yeah,
yeah, they're really fun, and
Yeah.
they all have, I'd love to get Cardigan Mountain in it, but so basically their graphics people take care of it.
Mhm.
All we have to say is, here's what we want to do. The colors here, so, tough stuff here, but, so I just really wanted to get your blessing before we send it off to have
Okay.
them do it. The other thing is I gave you as a, kind of the hot off the press, update of their, rates for fall 2024, for Community Power Coalition from New Hampshire rates as compared to the other utilities, and their rates have been holding either competitive or lower than the utilities. I think their basic, it's where it says Granite Basic is the default power.
Mhm.
And it's at 8.6 cents. Liberty is at 10.976 cents, and the co-op is at 8.648 cents. So they really, have been doing a great job putting their money where the mouth is. So
Right.
it's all good. So that's it. That's all any questions or?
Anybody, go ahead, Brian.
Are there meeting minutes for those of us who are not privy to where you're at?
Yes, they are posted on the town website. We have just under committees. It says the Electric Aggregation Committee, and that's the plan that we're trying to develop for Canaan.
Aggravation?
Yeah. Well, there's that too.
Sorry.
Aggregation.
Okay, thank you.
And yes, it's all on, I'm not exactly sure which ones are posted, but yes, we've been posting them. Yeah, they're there. So, and all the information about community power is on the website. And my email if you have any questions or anything. So it should be there. It's a good, just a place to start. I also highly recommend going to Community Power Coalition itself. And that is, information is also on the website, because they have all sorts of more information about it.
Bob, you had a question?
Both of the public meetings are on Wednesdays.
Yes, one's at 7 PM and one's at 3 PM.
Just know like a different day for the second meeting, Wednesdays, just.
Yeah, I know, we kind of went back and forth on that, and that was just sort of,
Can we have a select board meeting?
they had Tuesdays here, and
I mean, they were-
yeah, and also was the availability in terms of the people that could come present, I'm afraid. But it will be Zoom.
And
We could potentially have one at the select board meeting if you want, so.
Well, I
Are you expecting-
actually, I suggested that. I don't remember why it didn't fly in the meeting, but I think it's a good idea, but. So we could revisit that.
Okay,
They seem to have availability, so.
we need a motion to accept the logo.
So move.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Okay.
Aye.
Okay, I even got it, good, even better. All right, many thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. So Canaan Cemeteries, it's actually my bailiwick there, so about a year or two before I came on the board, we actually had cemetery trustees in the town. There wasn't a lot of interest in the role. There was a three-person committee, right, Sydney? And so the board they put it as a warrant to have the cemetery trustees transfer to the selectmen as one of our roles. And frankly, we have enough on our plate and it becomes a last non-existent focus for us. And I really think it's important. I had the opportunity last week to go out with Cindy and Dan and Chet and Barry. Barry is our cemetery person, and we went to all the cemeteries, and a lot of them are in pretty rough shape. Need some work. The trustees of the trust fund is working on something right now to try to even out some of the maintenance costs of the cemeteries. One cemetery is very well funded, and the rest are not, and so it makes it very difficult to run the cemeteries the way they should be run. Probably 6 years ago, maybe further, we actually had the town budgeted during the summer 100 hours of labor hours to take care of the cemeteries. Now it's down to 40 because of budgetary cuts. So one person doing it and really half a person doing it is certainly not enough. I'm going to start a program this fall and try to get a warrant and see if there's interest to get a trustee of the trust funds back up and running. Cemetery trustees, sorry. I'm looking at Cindy and said one thing, so. And see if there's any interest in getting that committee reestablished so that we get some focus on the cemetery, so. Just wanted to get it out there ahead of time. We'll be putting some stuff in the newsletter as well, but hopefully we have some people step forward to be part of that, so.
And just to add on to that, one of the things that becomes difficult for the select board to do it, the cemetery trustees would go out and meet and discuss projects. Anytime that happens with the select board, besides the time that they have to do it as part of their regular jobs. But the other piece is, it becomes a public meeting. There actually has to be minutes. They have to be warned a certain amount of time in ahead, and it's a very cumbersome process. For the select board to be able to meet and manage those things on site and in that area, so it would be a significant improvement for the town to do that, because the town is obligated for perpetual care of the cemeteries, and there is a cost associated with it, and there does need to be eyes on it. So I think that's a big piece.
And I'd be remiss not to say I was impressed, really impressed, because I had no idea that Barry's depth of knowledge in all the cemeteries was phenomenal. And his passion is it's unbelievable. So, hats off to Barry, and we're lucky to have him because he's the only one that has a lot of history. He and Vicky did a lot of work on mapping them and getting them up to speed, and is trying to get, carry on that torch as well. So, hats off to Barry. And, like I said, I was duly impressed with what he knew and how much he cared about it. So.
Think people will be dying to join that committee or what?
I hope so. No, I hope not, actually. I'm sorry. That was a good one.
You never get resident complaints.
We know you're being comfortable as a moderator, not as you started to tell jokes from the peanut gallery here.
Yes. Part of my job.
So moving on, we had a couple correspondence after the last meeting on the Gristmill Hill Bridge project from two of the land abutters. And I'm just going to read those into the minutes, but we also have two people we have Chris here and Trevor from HEB. So the answer is, just to be part of it, we'll give them copies of that. And so the first one is from Daniel and Sophia Bragdon. This is to the select board in town of Canaan. We attended the public hearing regarding the Gristmill Hill Bridge, where three options were presented. And it appeared to be the select board's opinion that option C is to move forward. Although during this meeting, the select board did not solicit opinions from the public on preferences of options A, B, or C, and proceeded with the discussion on option C. As the owners and residents of 13 Gristmill Hill Road, we have a number of concerns regarding the proposed option C favored by the select board. Regarding public safety, we concur with fellow residents of Gristmill Hill Road that improving, i.e. straightening the approach to Route 4 with option C will lead to a dangerous downhill speeds. This is a major concern year round, but in the colder months when the bridge freezes before the road, this will lead to dangerous downhill approaches to Route 4. Presently, the only reason people slow down on the approach to Gristmill Hill Bridge are the curves in the road and the one-lane nature of the current bridge. With the curves removed, combined with a two-lane bridge in option C, we are concerned for the safety of drivers and pedestrians on the road, rather. During the public hearing, it was stated that the current intersection of Route 4 and Gristmill Hill Road is very dangerous and has resulted in many accidents. I would hope that many citing such facts, the town could back the claim with statistics on the number of accidents per year directly because of this intersection. Where can these statistics be accessed from? Beyond public safety, we are deeply concerned with the impacts option C will have on the integrity of our property. We definitely oppose option C to the impacts of on our property, namely the removal of the rail trail tunnel. The main concern with the removal of the tunnel is the structural integrity of our home and the hill that our home is built upon. The foundation of our home is built upon bedrock ledge, which will be impacted by the removal of the tunnel. We are concerned that any blasting or drilling of the bedrock to remove the tunnel and remediate the slope will impact the stability and structural integrity of the bedrock foundation upon which our home is built. The proposed slope for option C will border our septic system that was installed by a previous owner. Since the septic field resides on our property and will likely be impacted by the removal of the tunnel, we expect consideration for our septic system during the planning and any cost incurred on our septic system to be covered by the project, should option C move forward. Furthermore, the deed of our land and our home indicates that there are no right-of-way easements. With the considerations for public safety and the structural integrity of our home, we hope that the select board members will consider the alternative option B compared to option C. Option B is minimal impact to landowners, improves the approach compared to a current bridge, and maintains some of the curve in the road to serve as a measure to slow drivers down. That was from Daniel Sevilla, Brighton of 13 Gristmill Hill Road. Right, and I'm sorry. The next one is from Gary Wood from 24 Gristmill Hill Road. After the 7/16/24 select board public hearing for the Gristmill Road Bridge replacement, it appeared that the bridge favored option C for a large span new bridge. I don't recall a vote or other note of consensus, but I left with the understanding that HEB engineers would continue planning for that option. At the meeting, I raised my concern about the speed and safety of the proposed straight road as drawn on option C. Although most drivers are cautious on this steep hill, some are not. At present, the curve on the lower portion of the hill and to some extent the slight curve near the upper portion contribute to speed reduction. It is notable that slightly relaxed curve in option B would likely combine better sight distance and speed reduction. Posted speed limits would help, but even respectful drivers often go 5 miles per hour over the limit. Option C will create a generally straight road on a steep hill that will come directly to a T intersection on Route 4. Combined with a 2-lane bridge, there will be little incentive for respective drivers to moderate their speed, and no incentive for those who disregard speed limits. A number of hazards may result. The typical downhill coast comes first to mind as a speed concern that will be exacerbated by wet or icy conditions. The head of steam uphill travel is dangerous when there is a blind meeting with a vehicle at the crest of the hill. In short, it's a tricky hill to navigate, and I think there should be a complete reconsideration for the approach to the bridge from the Gristmill hillside. For years, Gristmill Hill residents have had a neighborly 1-lane bridge and a number of meandering curves for relatively slow access to and from our homes. While a 2-lane bridge is a reasonable change to meet our current needs, I hope all would share that it's still nice to live on a country road. Yes, I do have concerns about how this major bridge replacement will reflect our private property. If you have not done so already, I encourage select board members and administration to go down the walking path to get an idea of how immense this construction would be. I want to be clear, however, that the concerns raised in this letter are separate from my personal property concerns. As I said in the meeting, for years, I've watched the traffic flow and the cautions it presents. I have little doubt that the straightened road that is one without mitigating curves in its design would be a speed and safety issue. Gary. Any comments from Chris on that?
Yeah, we received both those letters previously, and I've taken another look at the geometry that was proposed in alternative C, and verified that it does meet all current design criteria for geometry heading into a T intersection and curve radius and tangent sections for the safety of a rural local road. With that said, the 3 alternatives chosen, there's sort of an infinite number of solutions available to cross the Indian River and connect to Route 4. there are multiple variations between alternative C and alternative B, which were just basically different realignments of the bridge. That could be accommodated. I believe, I mean, it was the intent for the selection of alternative C at the urging of New Hampshire DOT to clear span over the rail trail and the river sort of all in one felt swoop. That is not necessarily feasible at alternative B. And the urging of New Hampshire DOT is when they offered to, pay for the remaining design engineering costs and really significantly reduce the town's portion of the costs. With that said, there are potential slight realignments of alternative C while still proceeding with the alternative in earnest, that may help mitigate and keep some of the curve in the road while still maintaining adherence to design guidelines and crossing the entire rail trail and river all at once. So just, really want to reconfirm that with the board that, the alignment as set as in the engineer study isn't necessarily the final alignment. We still have preliminary design phases and final design phases to go through that will come to the select board for approvals at each step of the way, where we can sort of refine the geometry of the road. If the board wishes to, adjust, with this public input received.
Any concern about the house at the Bragdon's house and the foundation and the septic?
Yeah. At first blush, the house seems far enough back. We had not pulled the septic plans for that property at that point in time. But as with any project, if the project is, requesting impacts to private property, any mitigation of concerns like that would be a part of the project. So removal of the tunnel, that can be assessed as part of the next phases of the project. Again, we have several phases and a good amount of time to move forward. So those assessments can be done and in coordination with that property owner to mitigate those concerns.
Okay. And I would say, I know both letters, talk about when the board picked on option C. That was actually a year ago when we had the public hearing. That was when the option C was decided. It was just strengthened more because of the financial impact of the state and federal paying for all of it then. But we had really, at that point a year ago, when we had the public hearing, that's when we pretty much decided on option C. And also on Dan and Sophia's letter, you talked about that we cited facts about increased accidents at the junction of Route 4 and Gristmill Hill Road. I didn't remember doing that. I actually went back to the July meeting and watched it just because I had not remembered hearing that. So nobody stated that there was higher accidents at that intersection. So I think the focus was on that the line of sight, so coming to a 90-degree T would improve visibility, but I think that's where the focus was. So. Anybody want to add anything or? Yeah.
When you presented A, B, and C, you had put a cost up for each one. And for C, that was cost to date, right? We wouldn't spend any more past that amount, is that correct?
That was the one that was $5.5 million, and we would not be, the state, because that was their preferred option, was gonna actually pick up even the design costs for that, where typically we'd be responsible for a portion of the design costs. So there would be zero cost to the town by picking that option.
Zero additional cost.
Correct.
Right.
And so for A and B though, were you showing already sunk costs or additional costs?
Well, there's been the only cost, which is the temporary bridge, and that's not part of the project because that was, so the only cost we've incurred right so far
Is the 24,000 we spent so
Oh,
far
yeah.
on this part of the
Okay.
design, which would be in all three of them. Those then for the rest of the design costs, the town would be responsible for, is it 80% or 20, I forget, 80%, right?
Correct. Yeah.
So we'd be responsible for 80% of the design costs going forward on either of the other options.
Okay, and so for A and B, when you say cost to the town. 24K of that is already passed.
Yes.
Okay, so really on those slides. A, B, and C, you're showing, I mean, just maybe a slight typo of. Already spent, to spend for the town is what we really should show for each one, right? And I can't remember the numbers, I can go back.
Yeah, we have to go back, but yeah. Yeah, basically, the 24,000 is some cost, but everything going forward. We pay for the one, we don't pay for the other. We pay for two.
Okay. Bob,
The investment that the homeowners have, I think, is completely valid. Are we going to, as a town, if there is any loss of any kind of equity on their home, are we gonna cover that?
equity,
Well,
Right away.
we'll suppose like they talk about the integrity of the house. What if the house starts having problems or something like that?
oh,
Can I?
Yeah.
Where that tube sets, that was originally a wooden arch bridge across there.
Yeah.
There wasn't anything blasted, cut, or anything. That cut was there from the original railroad run. They removed the bridge, set the tube in that cut and backfilled it. So to take the tube out isn't going to require blasting or any of that. It's just removal of what they put in for fill material. Because that cut was there already from back in the 1800s for the railroad itself. They just removed the bridge and put in the tunnel. So it's not a matter of having to blast to get it back out. It's just fill that was placed in.
Chris, can you also comment on that? I mean, are you expecting to have to do any blasting or?
No, there's not expected to be any plastic.
And so related to that, you dig a hole into a hill and there is going to be erosion that happens naturally. That is also of a concern, especially on the designs that show the slope going pretty far back close to our house. And we're already on a steep hill, and so that is also a major concern, any erosion that is induced by the removal of the culvert.
I mean, one of the things, and Chris and I have talked about this, part of what he's talking about in the next phase is actually doing the analysis, now that we've said this is our favorite at this time. Now we have to do the analysis. We talked about, he's gonna have to do a structural analysis to make sure there's gonna be no effect, what would have to be done to mitigate. All of these things will be part of the next phase of design. And then decisions are made once we have that information. This is, like you said, this isn't a final design, they're still tweaking and adjusting. The goal is to say, okay, what's it gonna actually impact? And look at that.
When that spring time, is that what was on the roadmap?
Chris, was that like a springtime where you have that next phase kind of done?
Yeah, I mean, there's a preliminary design phase and a final design phase with environmental permitting kind of in the mix there as well. So that doesn't wrap up until 2026. So there's still quite a ways of this design process ahead of us.
Okay, and I mean, you guys will have your analysis of it. I'm sure we're have the ability to hire someone to present our analysis of it as well, correct?
I mean, typically, yeah, he's gonna do the structural analysis by putting their seal and everything on, they have liability, and then you can take that anywhere you want to have it looked at.
Okay.
Obviously. Because that becomes part of, because the one thing there is at both properties at the bottom, there is some right of way adjustments, there's the road. Is that gonna be abandoned and given to the homeowner, and all those things are gonna be in that part of that discussion.
Now,
So prior to you signing off on any right of way, you would have all of that work done.
we are very hesitant to take any of that one, just so you know.
Okay.
Just for your planning.
Whichever.
Gary?
I'm going to disagree a little bit with Scott. Yes, when the wooden bridge was taken out, it was definitely a relatively simple excavation and a cut, as you call it. But if you remember correctly, it was the extension of the tunnel going west, which was included in that design, mostly going west, and actually a little bit more. A little bit more in the east side as well, but there was a fairly, wasn't massive, but there was a fairly extensive amount of fill to have that tunnel going west. The only reason I bring that up is because at the time, it led me to wonder if it was in some anticipation of a, at this point defined as an operating. Some anticipation of an alternate bridge going over in, on the west side of the existing bridge. In other words, the tunnel is still there. Albeit it looks like it would have to be extended another.
Yes, it would have to be
Yes.
extended to do any of that work, but that was extended to radius that turn. Because that bridge was a relatively sharp turn coming off from that
Indeed,
old wooden bridge.
indeed.
And that was the old stone. You had a stone abutment and the cut ledge. Especially to the east was nothing but cut ledge.
Yes,
They extended the tunnel so that they could get a radius on that from what the bridge was to improve it. And backfilled over that,
I'm only indicating that the tunnel is somewhat or considerably longer than just the overpass.
yeah, and some of those tunnels, they extend them out like that. For your structural integrity on the road, so they don't have to do any form of concrete abutment or anything. It becomes, when you extend it out like that, now you have an earthen berm for support. And it's to hold the cost down, so you're not pouring concrete abutments with that. Here again, that has a maintenance requirement that all goes with it.
Is it possible to leave the tunnel there even with option C?
The state has control over that. Because that rail trail is all state property. And that is one of the reasons they want option C, is so they can remove it to eliminate their maintenance issue.
Do you know the approximate maintenance cost over, say, 30 years of the tunnel?
That's all the state's figures. We don't have any of that.
We have to go back to the original plan too, probably for that, so
Is that available anyway?
I don't know.
It
I
might be
honestly don't
through
know.
New
Yeah.
Hampshire DOT, but that is.
I don't know who
nothing.
put the culvert in, to be honest with you, so. Do you know,
That was through the rail trail.
real trip? Chris, do you have any information on that by any chance?
No, it is, as far as I understand, maintained by DOT.
Yeah.
What they do for maintenance, not really aware of what they would do at
Right.
this point.
Yeah, Bob.
Wasn't there something about no matter what we did, we were gonna have to make that aperture big enough for a full-size train, so no matter what one we do, we're gonna have to tear into that, right?
I would,
So it's kind of a non-starter in that,
yeah, I don't know
Any
what the,
bridge.
I mean, the
Any
goal was, the original goal was to have a 22-foot span.
Yeah.
Over the rail trail for future rail.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, yeah, if I can chime in, if the tunnel were to stay, it would stay as is. For DOT to participate in the new bridge, the tunnel would be removed and, about a 13 to 15 foot clearance for current use of the rail trail would be provided. So it would be an enhanced opening with alternative C. And the DOT's participation in covering 100% of the design costs moving forward. Yeah, at one point they did want full rail clearance, but that was determined not to be feasible or something that DOT wanted to push forward with.
Okay. thank you. Thanks for your letters of concern. Do appreciate it, so. Chris and Trevor, thanks for popping in and being able to answer some questions as well.
All right, very good. Thank you.
Next item is, production well test proposal for Enfield.
Yeah, we received notification that the town of Enfield is installing a new large production well, and this is in that section where it's. The actual well is on the Canaan side of the property. There are nine properties that also use that water. And we have the request for does the town want to have them do a drawdown test on all the wells? And we're saying yes, and I was notifying before I actually send it back to them that that's what I would recommend is that we do sign the document and have them test our wells as well while they're doing their drawdown tests.
So we don't, the Canaan doesn't use any of those wells, do
There's 9 residents,
They're
they?
private.
Private wells, okay.
9 private residents.
Enfield has drilled a new well for their water supply.
Yeah.
Before that goes into production, they have to do a drawdown to find out how pumping so many gallons per minute for so many hours to see if it affects the aquifer.
Got it.
And this way it lets local residents know if they're on that same aquifer to be affected.
Affecting those 9 residents, okay.
Well, and even beyond that, I mean, the fact is that it affects the aquifer and it's the zone of influence type of thing.
Okay. Need a motion on that?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Website upgrade?
A website upgrade, that's nice. Basically, as we were going through the IT changeover, we discovered. Because we don't have complete control of our website at this time, and it is farmed out. But it also is. Not meeting most of the current standards. And in addition to, and I think Carrie Ann sent you the email today about the offer for training on 2025's rules for websites. Most of the towns in the area use
Civics Plus.
Civics Plus. It just went blank for a second. And basically we went to that group and Carrie Ann and Monica have attended a couple of discussions with them. And they have all the background information as to what the options are and what the cost will be. But yeah, we are gonna have to make some sort of a change and we just have to determine how we're gonna go about that.
So that's a GOV site instead of
Well,
ORG?
no, this is just the website itself, but we are transitioning to GOV as well.
Okay.
With the IT group.
So what's entailed with the other?
It's
rest of
basically
ours?
buying a website that does it's ADA compliant. It's able to store a lot more information because we are now storing multiple committees and groups worth of video meetings and things like that. We need a lot more website storage and a lot more functionality to go with the system.
And user friendly.
And yeah, and it's much more user friendly.
Administrator friendly, you mean?
Yes.
Administrator friendly.
Right now, we currently use 4 of the free programs to plug in one piece of information. So we have a low calendar, it's called Low Calendar, it's free. We plug in some information, then gets put onto our website. It's about 10-minute process to add 1 set of minutes to the process to upload. We also use like MailChimp for our newsletters.
Yeah.
Again, that's another $70, I think it's $70 a month, just to have that. With Civics Plus, that will be included with this new package. And the calendar. Folks are gonna be able to sign up for what information they wanna receive. Any complaints, they can make complaints to the website. So there's a lot of great things that will
Small section
happen.
on the side.
Yeah. But if it's a rock in the road, whatever, it can get sent. And the nice features of the Cannon Police Department, Fire Department, all these bigger departments will have access to their page. So they can update the information as they wish.
At their leisure.
Yes.
So when do you expect to have a full package, like proposal?
We got the proposal yesterday or today?
Today.
Today.
So can we see that in the plan next meeting or?
Yeah. Yeah, basically, we wanted to just bring your attention to, we're working on this process through the IT update. Did you have anything else you wanted to add to that?
It's much better security parameters around the website, where right now our security is very low.
We're not using somebody else's server anymore.
That will include getting rid of the other multiple
Two web pages
websites.
that we do have,
Yes.
that are all linked, we have like the healthcare clinic is also linked, to our page for somehow, we don't know how to get rid of it. We don't have nobody else to back up for IT.
It's too early to know whether the .gov move will help with security, et cetera.
I will tell you, given, and we can talk about this in a minute under the next section, but during our IT conversion, we found some gaping holes in security.
Oh,
How's that?
You make copies of this for Scott and say you leave them in the
I only
boxes.
did just. the
No,
one.
but can you make copies for them and leave it in the box?
I've also reached out to Grafton, who has Civics Plus. They're really pleased with it. Enfield as well. They did make one big mistake, is they went with a cheaper package. They were informed to upgrade. So they're compliant, because everything changes in what, 25? In year 25. And they didn't. They had a hard time migrating all their documents onto the web page. So they learned their lesson.
Okay.
But there is 24-hour access, so if we need help, we have it,
Support.
and that's a US based support, so.
Okay. Thank you all for working on that. And getting us compliant. Any questions on that? Till we see more? No?
They did say the implementation costs can be split across 3 years if we don't want to be one lump sum upfront.
Okay. All right,
So that is an option, but I did just ask to have a lump sum.
say that again.
I did pick one or the other, so I asked for the lump sum.
Okay. All right, I didn't get to that part, so
Yeah.
I want to keep my heart working. Facilities and repairs upgrades.
Two items. One is the highway garage repair for
Window.
the water. As we opened it up, it's like driftwood in the wall. So basically, we are looking at having to replace a lot of the internal framing that's in that wall,
Mhm.
on the side of the highway garage office. So there will be additional costs, but it was kind of surprising how much it rotted away. It's like nothing left.
Yeah. I'm not.
But
surprised.
again, you
I'm
know,
not
we had
surprised.
and you can attest to this, and he claimed it was a drinking bowl, but they had a dish sitting there collecting water.
Yeah,
leak
oh, I
through
know.
the header.
No.
So that's being worked on. And then as far as the IT changeover, we mentioned one thing, one of the very first things that they did was they ran some internal software looks into all the computers,
Mhm.
and found that there were some pathways, basically our old IT group was using, going through our computers and into the server versus straight into the server. There's a lot of odd items in the server we bought in 2021.
But didn't put in until.
Well,
this year.
it was hooked up, it was like running kind of parallel, but the stuff, the work coming off the computers was not backing up to that, it was really just kind of running parallel. But they also had were supposed to install a 2019 version of the software, they actually installed a 2016 and didn't realize it. So it was causing all kinds of problems, we've had problems getting signed in because the passwords they gave us were tied to the 2019 version, which wasn't even installed, we had to go back. And Karen can tell you, because I always forget what it was, our new IT group went in and actually took control of something because there was no protections on it.
Yeah, the server was just open, so we just came in my office, went in the server room and like uninstalled the current IT company's remote access and then installed their own, just like without having any passwords.
Okay, well, that's good, because we weren't getting.
Well, that made it
password.
simple.
Well, portions of it, but I mean, the frightening part was there was a lot of holes and they were not and they weren't aware, like they said, how'd you do that? Like, they weren't even aware that this was the
Yeah, because
case.
when he came before the board, he was adamant that, you know, of those security reasons, security.
And, and they're basically non-existent. I think that's all I'm bringing to your attention today is
Just
this,
another
this,
affirmation that we made the right decision.
this is, we made the right decision and this company has already gotten 85 or 90% control. And actually the bigger problem we have right now is them getting the information they need because the former IT company doesn't even really understand what he's asking for.
Terrifying. Okay,
So that's where we sit with that today.
thank you. That it?
That's it for those two, for Phil Silver.
Right. So finance, Carrie Ann's here.
We're providing, Carrie Ann's gonna talk a little bit about the default budget.
Yep,
Yeah, we're getting ready to submit, Chet's budget to the board in the next couple weeks. So when we were looking at the department head budget and comparing it to last year, a lot of things are skewed because of all the warrant articles we ran. So I looked through and calculated the default budget. We can still modify it through the rest of the process, but I just wanted to explain to you why I would like to use the default budget when we compare the 2025 proposed budget. Everybody's used to looking at the previous year's budget and then comparing that to the proposed budget, but because of the warrant articles being so high, there was 179,000 for the lease payment that's now in the operating budget.
Yep.
There was another 100,000 approved on top of paving, which is now part of the 2025 default budget. And then we've in the warrant article for approving a contingency fund. So those three warrant articles just have, they increase
big
the
impact.
default budget a bunch, and it's giving everybody's equal comparing the proposed budget to the previous year's budget. So when we present the 2025 proposed budget, we'll have it compared to the 2025 default budget rather than the 2024 budget.
Mhm. That makes sense to me.
And the default budget increase was the $350,000.
Yeah. You just have to convince one person, so.
Yeah, and realistically, when we started looking at it, when she first put the budget together that everybody sent in, it was like, so out there, it's like, well, there's no way to compare what we're actually working in today
Right, right.
versus what was approved last year, or as far as just the budget, we gotta, in my view, you gotta do 25 actual budget. I mean, 24 actual budget to the 25 proposed budget is the only way to really do that comparison.
Yeah, okay. And can we do that as a default? Is that the actual gonna be the actual default budget right now, or is that like,
Yes, the default budget is what I emailed.
yeah, no, I got it here. I looked at the bottom line, but I was taken aback that it was that much of an increase, so.
Yeah, and that was the other.
Yeah, because of the
contracts.
long-term debt.
Yeah,
If you look at the comments underneath each account number, one of them, like we signed the payroll contract, that was payroll as a service, so that was higher than what we've been paying. We also signed the voice system contract, that was only budgeted.
got it.
We did an on-site drug testing contract, the wireless broadband at the Speedway plant, and then we also added wireless broadband at the meeting house. So those were all contracts added, and then we did the high definition printer at town hall and police, so that contract's in there.
Thank you.
So it all added up
Yeah.
along with the three big warrant articles.
Okay, thank you.
And the other item under finance that we wanted to just see if we want to reach a resolution tonight is related to ambulance staffing that was brought up at the last meeting about how we're already basically looking at 6.5 FTEs with what we're spending, and
Right.
we have 2 we're paying, and you know, to simplify the process. If the board would like to move forward with at least advertising for 1 additional EMT right now,
Full-time,
full-time,
at no increase.
with no increase to the budget.
Yeah, I have no problem with it, because their revenues are showing.
Yeah.
We make a
I will
motion.
move to advertise for
I will second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye,
I,
great, thank you.
That was the plan from the start, was to build that EMS service.
All right, so then we've got the policies that you brought before us last meeting.
Yeah, there's some edits and the lawyer had reviewed them.
Yeah, I had a couple more edits, so when I got the final, so.
I did too, and I just want to apologize because I said to you, I'll send you an email with my requested changes, and that didn't happen. I'm just gonna go first, Stephen. So some of mine are format requests and then some are other changes, but like, I want to have a consistency in our policy, so this has our logo. And I want everything to be in the same font, I want everything to have our logo. On two of them, we have a purpose, we don't have it on this one, so we need to modify that.
Which ones are?
Dip management,
Debt management does not have a purpose.
Yeah, and then like our footers are different on all. Some have dates, some don't, some say what the policy is or where we're located. So I'm wondering if you and I can schedule a meeting and kind of go over them, like I'm thinking Tuesday at 10:30 before I have to be at the polls.
Yeah, this is next Tuesday.
Yeah, so that
That'd
we
be
can
fine.
present them, okay. And then there, it's still, some of the language I thought needed to maybe be modified, but I would love to hear Stephen's suggestions as well.
sure, so on the debt policy, again, this is punctuation more than anything, but under 2C, it says current revenues and fund balances, or funds balances, it should be just fund.
Yep.
And then on L, interfund borrowing, internal lending will not be considered to finance high priority needs. That should be the end of that period, that
And
sentence.
that's what I thought when I wrote it, but we didn't, that wasn't mentioned when we did it.
Yeah.
And I left
Yep.
it, but I had thought we should stop there.
Right. And then on the code of ethics policy, adopted by Canaan Board of Selectmen, we need to change it to Canaan Select Board throughout that whole document.
I apologize, I had changed all of that on my draft
Yeah.
and then I accepted all of Sean's, I had that fixed, I
Yeah.
promise.
No, it's fine.
I
Well, it's not
had,
fine.
when I had accepted all his revisions and then it put it all back. I'm sorry,
And then actually didn't have anything on fund balance, but
okay, so Tuesday at 10:30.
Yeah, and I have to be at the polls at noon, and I think that will be plenty of time, because there were not many things that I noticed, but I think right now we're in a position where we have some policies all over the place, and I just want them to look consistent and we
Yep.
know that it's been approved and. Yeah,
Yep.
okay.
great. Town
We
administrator.
actually blank slate tonight for that.
I like that.
They all ended up above and I'm like, I think I'm good.
Good. Other business, anybody have anything? Yes, sir. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Good.
My name is Tom Milligan. I'm here with my hat on as chair of the Historic District Commission. And, I sent you an email a while back asking or telling you that we've got some new members, we've got some other members, that we need to coordinate their expiration dates with their appointments.
Right.
So, we'd like to have you reappoint Mike Roy and Chris Wolcott as members of the commission. And their terms would expire in 2027. We also would like to have John Bergeron appointed as an alternate, whose term would expire in 2026. And John Dyer as an alternate, whose term would expire in 2027.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Hi.
You're so easy to work with.
Well, we appreciate the work you do up there.
On that, please.
We made the changes.
It's been recorded.
All of a sudden, they look in our last thing, there's like 7 people.
Like 9 minutes, Roger.
Their terms are all insane
Bold.
because of that.
Got
So
it.
we
Any other business from anybody? Monica?
Julie, our, part-time park and rec volunteer.
Yes.
She would like to let everybody know that she's planning a movie night, September 20th at 7 o'clock for all the kids and anybody who wants to join. It'll be free at Williams Field.
Okay,
Nice.
excellent. What day?
September 20th,
Seven.
7 o'clock,
Say September or
and it'll be free popcorn.
September.
Yeah.
But you can show up in December. All right, motion to go into non-public.
So moved.
All in favor? Thanks, everyone, for coming tonight.
Thank you, guys.